behind the scenes stuff. Definitely, the people are telling y'all hit the like button. We got over 500 people in here. We're about to have a good time. But let's start with some stuff that I saw. Y'all, somebody put together a Marlo doll. Did y'all see this? Now, I don't know if it was actually Marlo or not. I'm not truthfully mad at the doll. Um, I'm not mad at the doll. I don't know who did it, but I see the likeness. So kudos to whoever put together that. Y'all know Marlo's not my favorite, but I'm not a hater. No, I'm tickled. Those intros take a long time. Those intros take a long time, just FYI. Now, this was interesting. It says Marlo reveals people, producers, even told her to come to Kenya's spa launch with farm animals to embarrass Kenya, but she didn't do it. Now we know why they didn't air the scene, because producers wanted to gag Kenya and it didn't happen the way they had hoped. Now, that is from the Carter Files. Y'all know to be keeping my ear to the street. Now this was something really juicy. It says, looks like her fave fell flat. From her outfit to her tired reads, blank fake ass subpoena, and still not open salon, blaming production for her lack of story. So then the Carter file said, Eric Fuller not even hiding it no more. Look at him liking this IG post with Marlo shading Kenya. Wow, this is so unprofessional. And the pic, I don't know if you guys can see it. It was Eric, the producer, and Kenya actually responded to this saying, wow. Ooh. Ooh. So I don't know. I don't want Kenya to be fired from the show, but it does look like there is some friction between her and Eric. So I thought I'd bring that to y'all. Toya Caldwell says Drew earned her check. I don't know about the rest. It does seem like this was heavy on Drew tonight. It definitely was Drew heavy. Thank you for the super chat, Toya Caldwell. Thank you for the super chat, Shawnee Daniel, or super sticker. I appreciate you. And while we're at it, thank you guys for showing up and showing out. I have a running tally of how much money we made for Tiara's family. It's the 3 children pictured here. Tiara was a Black woman murdered. We did a charity event because this was actually Scotty by Nature's real life friend. She was murdered through no fault of her own, through a DV situation. And we just wanted to raise money for her 3 kids who are all under the age of 18. We running tally because there's more coming. Trust me. Right now, Cash App, Scotty sent me this. He received $2,335 in Cash Apps, $302.82 in PayPal's, $308 from Zelle. I have another $200 for him. So I want to just say thank you so much, Michelle, for your $150 donation. Thank you so much, Miss Beck, for your $50 donation. So we have another 200 there. And then we got super chats totaling. Hold on. I had it. We raised $552.51 in super chats. And I think we got some more after the fact. So that will tally. I should get that tally by the end of tonight. So guys, we are looking at raising, looks like we are coming up on our goal of $4,000 to $5,000 raised for those kids. So I want to thank everybody who donated. Even if you could not donate and you just watched the live and participated and supported Scotty, and yes, and supported this Black woman, children who lost their mom. Thank you so much. But let's get back to the review. T Bradley, thank you so much for joining the membership. And Beatrice says the doll looks better than Marlo. The shade has started already, and it wasn't me this time. It wasn't me, because I've grown.
You know what that is? It's gross.
I've grown. Okay, Courtney and Drew fight. That's where we're starting, y'all. This was so tiring. Someone had said that it was Drew who kept interrupting Courtney. Actually, it was Courtney who was talking while Drew was talking. The question was poised to her. Um, it just was a lot of what we've already seen. Courtney feels validated in basically relaying what Ralph's side is consistently. And what we the fans are saying is it's weird. I'm sorry. It's just kind of weird. And I really wish that Gabor's favorite, Garcelle, was here to interject because we really needed a Garcelle in this moment.
Bugging the shit out of me.
Why?
Because why are you all in this? Like, let them figure it out.
Right. I don't know if it needed to be Andy, Kenya, Sanya. Somebody needed to say, "You're bugging the shit out of us. Let them figure it out." But, they continue. So, what I thought was extremely interesting was Drew's issue seems to be my issue. It is you bringing the son's adoption into it. Let that be Ralph's fight. The fact that you said this numerous times on camera and doubled down because Drew was like, "You didn't know you're being filmed." And she's like, "I said it multiple times." So you're giving it away. Somebody asked a question earlier. Why do I go so hard on Courtney? I don't like her. I'm sorry. I found nothing interesting in somebody doing that. It's just my opinion. You can like her on this channel. You can like who you like. But in terms of me, I don't like her. I don't like her, and she's bugging the shit out of me. Let them deal with it. um, so it's just the same thing. It's just Sanya. Andy says you did do it. Then Sanya steps in and says kids should be off limits. Kenya is saying kids should be off limits. Kids should be off limits. Courtney kind of ignores that and is just kind of focused in on Drew, completely focused in on Drew about Drew's business. Let's just start here. Let's say that Drew was lying. Why is it Courtney's issue? Why is it Marlo's issue or Sheree's issue? Let's just say Drew's lying. Now what? Or how about if Drew would have sat on the couch and said, "I lied. I'm sleeping with everybody on this side of the couch." Where would the storyline be? Let's think about this. If Drew admitted to everything at the start of this and just sat there and pulled the Nene and said, "Yep, you're right, I'm wrong," what would be where would we be for the rest of this reunion? Just a question. So Drew feels like Ralph coached Courtney. Courtney steers the conversation back to Ty and says, "Drew, you visited Ty." So Drew says, "Yeah, I did visit Ty in Texas." That's it. So this was interesting. Ralph asked Courtney, Andy asked Courtney, "When did Ralph tell you that he was getting a divorce?" And Courtney goes on, "Oh, he told me right after this." The question is, Andy, why are you asking this woman? You're asking this woman because that is what her central storyline is, the demise of Drew and Ralph's marriage. I can't. People ask me how I feel about Courtney.
I feel about her, I'm numb.
I'm numb. That's how I feel. I feel like Andy at the end of the episode. I'm numb. I'm numb.
I feel about her, I'm numb.
That's how I feel. We got over 1,300 in the chat. Definitely hit that like button. Black Captain America says, "Ralph over there on Twitter cutting up. This was like a stage play, and we still don't know Miss Unverified." I feel like we know Miss Unverified. I think that we know, we've seen it before multiple times. Thank you for the super chat, Black Captain America. I feel like we pretty much know Allison. Not Allison. We pretty much know Courtney at this point. I said Allison because if you didn't watch, Courtney's cousin sent some messages over to Allison. I did a video about it this morning. It was kind of threatening. Check that out at your leisure. But that's not what we're here for tonight. 1,400 in the chat. We should be at least about like 900 likes. Definitely hit that like button. Miss Unverified Sister. It just was a lot of the same. Manietta chiming in saying, Drew, you better say something. Manietta. I like you, Manietta. But at this point, let them hash it out. Just saying, let them hash it out. Now, this was interesting. Drew says, you're tired, get some rest. That is part of the messages that Courtney's sister sent to Allison, Drew's sister. Good night, Allison. Pour a drink and get some rest. You must be tired. So she's just replaying to Allison what Drew said to Courtney on the reunion. What is going on? Check out that video. This is Courtney's sister who sent Allison those messages. Check that out again at your own leisure. This morning, everything was popping off, and I was just kind of like, what is going on? Now, I wasn't like Marlo seeing the demise of a marriage, because Marlo seeing the demise of this marriage was sitting there like,
That's some hot tea.
But I was just kind of like, this is crazy. There's a whole lot going on. It was a whole lot going on all over the place, just stuff popping off. So Marlo asking Drew, well, do you like girls? Marlo is at a place where Marlo does not want anybody to make any assumptions about her. She doesn't want to be known as the woman with the square reader between her leg. But you are the first person to want to know about other people's sexuality. You wanted to know if Candy was a lesbian, who she was paying, all these things. But when the question is asked of you, you want to tell us you're a virgin. So which one is it? You cannot be the antagonist who wants to know what's going on between other people's legs, but when they ask you about what's going on between yours, it's off limits. Are y'all seeing that? So people are going to continue saying that you're the woman with the square reader between your legs because you haven't given people anything else to really talk about other than you dated some rich man, you didn't love him, but he taught you how to make money. What do you want people to say? Especially when you're taking so much joy. I'm skipping. Sorry, I got to skip to this part. Everybody else on the couch felt uncomfortable when they were looking at Ralph and Drew go at it because you're like looking at the demise of a marriage. Everybody felt uncomfortable, even the people who don't like Drew, except for Marlo. And we're going to get to this at the end. Marlo was quite pleased about what was going on, and that's why I don't see it for her. Sorry, but I digress. Andy is now treating Marlo and Sheree as if they're freaking frack and asking them, well, do you have any information? That felt like a setup. Andy, clearly you knew that Sheree had a folder because why would you specifically ask those two? Well, do you have any information? But it could be me. Put in the chat if you don't agree. But for me, I felt like that was the case. Vina Pearson, Sheree know who sent the messages. She has cameras. In this house, her gate actually does work. She knows exactly who did it. So you're wanting Drew to be upfront, but you're not really willing to admit exactly what is being sent to you. None of this made sense. Thank you so much, Vina, for the super chat. Marlo was vested. She definitely had a vested interest, but it just, nobody wants to see the demise of a marriage. Even though Ralph is not my favorite person, if Ralph and Drew figured it out tomorrow, that's really their business. They have multiple children together. I wouldn't be there like this. People ask me how I feel about Marlo.
I feel about her, I'm numb.
How do I feel about saying
I
him?
feel about her, I'm numb.
Yeah, it was a setup. So Sheree acts as if she's reticent to give these documents. Oh, yes, I happen to have something. And it's all the text messages between Ty and Drew. And Andy's looking at them, and Andy feels like these are very incriminating. Kenya takes it, and she says she doesn't feel like they're incriminating. Candy doubles down and says, well, you mean you don't talk like this? Technically, I bet you there was like flirtation in those messages. And I bet you those are the same kind of text messages that Kenya was sending to LaToya. It doesn't mean that what was Kenya's stripper name for Bolo Gate? Was it Chocolate something? I know Portia's was Prune Juice. What was Kenya's name for the Bolo Gate? Either way it goes, it doesn't mean that LaToya got all of it in Kenya. But even if Drew did mess with Ty, why is this the central storyline for all of the women? It was just Chocolate? Okay, so we don't know. I highly doubt that Toya was kissing up on Prune Juice, then threw up after kissing on Prune Juice, and then had some chocolate that night. But I do think that there was some flirtation there. Whatever the case may be, why is this the central storyline? If Lickety Split wants to bust it wide open, that's her business. I'm really trying to understand. If Lickety Split wants to cut cartwheels all up and through Savannah and whatever, and Texas and whatever, why is it such a big topic of conversation for, I'm not even gonna say Marlo, Sheree, and Courtney? It was weird. It was extremely weird. So Andy says the texts are incriminating. Then after that, they really dismissed Manetta and said they talked to her about her orphanage, and then it was time for her to go. It was like, what? So I don't know. I don't know if Manetta will come back as a friend of. I don't know if she did enough this season to get on the show for next season. I don't mind her, but I don't know. Maybe she wasn't messy enough, or maybe she wasn't messy in the right places. She did try to hold the girls accountable in some spaces, but I don't know. I hope that Courtney doesn't get it, and I don't know if Manetta did enough. And Kenya's other friend, I don't even know her name. Lisa, thank you so much for the super sticker. We have okay, let's see. Doreen Gar. Ralph is the only one who gets a hold of Drew text messages. He gave them to Courtney and gave them to Sheree. That's what I'm thinking. I definitely do think that was Ralph's doing, but it is weird to say you want to get back with her. It just felt weird. We're gonna get into the gaslighting on all sides a little bit later, but it was weird. Thank you, Doreen, for the super chat. Somebody said awkward, awkward, awkward. Candy is over the show. Yeah, it's weird that everybody is talking about this. Was Kenya was chocolate souffle? Okay. I remember prune juice, chocolate souffle, lickety split. Was Marlo square reader? I don't know that lady has a square reader between her legs. That's just what Kenya said. I do not know if that's the case. Thank you so much for being a member for 3 months. Sissy Nicole, she says, hey, ma'am, so here's my mom's take. Who else has beef with Drew besides Anthony? And who is magically cool with Sheree? So you think Anthony went to Mimi, got it, and then delivered it to Sheree? It could have been. It's just weird that Sheree chose not to say. You want to be upfront about everything else except for the person who you know hand-delivered you these messages. It's weird. Thank you, Sissy Nicole. And thank you for being a member for this month. And thank you to your mom for letting us know. She might be on to something. Manietta's gone. Okay. So Courtney's visit to Ralph. Now, this tracks because if you guys remember, Allison had told us that she walked in with them hugging and she decided to run up on Courtney and ask Courtney if she had called her a bitch. And Courtney said, I absolutely did call you a bitch. And Allison was right there with her before they broke them up. I was like,
That was not expected.
I want to say this before we get into, because I did a review of an interview with Courtney, and Courtney was saying that she really doesn't like Kenya. I'm the kind of person where I don't really want you hitting me to talk. I really do feel like sitting next to Courtney at a dinner party is probably something like this. I feel like it's probably something like that, where she just hits the hell out of you like multiple times. I would probably not want you doing that too, Courtney. Just saying. But it was extremely weird to have Courtney hug him and then go right into talking about what a horrible person Drew is and how she's unreliable. And he just sat there and allowed you to do it. You, Courtney, were used as a tool and a mouthpiece for Ralph. And I don't think that you did it unawareingly. You purposefully did that. And that is why we are cool on you. If you were just coming here, this is my sentiments about Courtney.
Bugging the shit out of me.
Why?
Because why are you all in this? Like, let them figure it out.
Maybe Allison was Garcelle this season. Maybe that's what it was. Allison was Garcelle. Let them figure it out. Yeah, Courtney proceeds to talk about what a compulsive liar Drew is with Ralph, her husband. Sheree and Marlo, they high five because they feel successful in taking Kandi down this season. They came into the season wanting to take Kandi down. And I don't think that in the reunion, Kandi was prepared for the amount of heat that she got. Let's see if I can find Marlo Hampton, Sheree Whitfield interview. There was an interview that they did at the beginning of the season where they consistently kept saying, we're going to make Kandi work. We're going to make Kandi work. We're going to make Kandi work. Here we go. We're going to make Kandi work. We're going to make Kandi work. That does not make for a good season. If you make somebody work, what does that even mean? All of you guys are on a show together. It felt contrived from the start. And I'm inclined to believe Kandi when she says, you are jealous that my businesses are successful. Technically, Marlo's claim to fame is dating a billionaire, and Sheree's claim to fame was messing with, y'all don't like when I call him names, so I'll just say messing with Bob. That's it. Whereas Kandi, y'all can say whatever you want about her sex life and everything else, but everything that Kandi has achieved, she's achieved on her own. So I honestly think that that's the crux of the issue. Marlo's like, oh, you work too hard. I'm not jealous of you. She's a self-made person. She's taking care of everybody in her family. She didn't put her mom out of the house that her sugar daddy bought her. Like, what are you doing? I'm inclined to believe Kandi. And that don't have anything to do with the fact that I like Kandi on the show. It has everything to do with just common sense. You guys do not like the fact that Kandi makes $2.5 million or however much she makes, and you feel like I'm making pennies to the dollar and I'm going to make her work. That's really for Bravo to do. You all doing it made you look dumb. Your focus should have been your businesses. Sheree, let's get on you. Let's talk. Some people are about to be mad, but I don't care. I don't care. Sheree, realistically, you had enough foresight to have text messages planned, prepped, and ready of Drew's communication with Ty. But when Kenya brought up the fact that Martell admitted to threatening revenge P on his current wife, you said that's unverified. Martell admitted it. We can go to Queen Sheba's interview and pull that up. You knew that though. And you also know that allegedly Bob Whitfield in 2009 did an interview where he said the same thing. I did a whole video on it. It was exposed, Bob and Sheree. Check that video out, where Bob actually said on a radio show that he was going to release your revenge P. And he also admitted that he paid for your first nose job before the show ever even started. So if you can be that invested in Drew stuff, why the hell can't you acknowledge Martell and what Martell is doing? Because it would seem to me that if your ex-husband threatened to do that to you, you probably would be reticent to be with the man who's willing to do that to his current wife or his ex-wife as well. Let me know if I'm missing something. You guys can put it in the chat. Let me know if I'm missing something. Carol Morton, thank you so much for the super sticker. Oh, thank you again for the super sticker. Carol Morton is coming through. Toya Caldwell, Sheree cannot remember who sent that envelope, just like she can't remember to pay the designer. You must have saw my video. We reviewed exactly what the designer said. And y'all, we may have something coming up next week or something very, very soon where more interviews are popping off. I'll just leave it at that. It'll be an interview that you guys are very interested in. Lisa, so thank you, Toya. Lisa says they all came for Candy. That's why she had a stank face the whole time. They act jealous of Candy. And you know, thank you, Lisa, but you don't even have to be a Candy fan to see it. If you're making the most money and the people, your coworkers, don't feel like you are doing what it takes to make that amount of money, they are going to come for you. And that's exactly what it was. And I'm kudos to Candy for calling it out. That was one of those I could take care of every one of you motherfuckers if I wanted to kind of moments. Call it out. You're jealous. You're hating because my businesses are successful. And the people who don't like Candy, you can even admit that that's what it feels like. So we're going to get into that. They felt successful taking her down. We talk about Kenya eating groceries. I would not be surprised, Sheree, if you've eaten a grocery or two in your life. But okay. Candy talked about bedroom candy. Marlo the Virgin and Scott Lee. Marlo says the best sex she's ever had was from a Gemini. If people are talking about, freaky, kinky things that they've done, why would that be yours, Marlo? Again, this is what I can't get with. If you are a city girl and you have agency over your own body and you like to talk about what everybody can do for you and, who and what you date, but then people talk about who you date, it's a problem. I don't get it. I don't get it, but whatever, Marlo. Candy's had a 4-way. Now, when you think 4-way, people probably think free for all, but I bet you that 4-way was more like what they call a wife swap, something like that. I bet. So it's not what you think, hanging from chandeliers. Although I don't know. Candy does have a dungeon tour coming up. I think sometime towards the end of the year. I'm sure some of y'all are gonna go. But anyway, moving on. Sanya's family. I'm not gonna stay too much on this. Sanya is not my favorite character on the show. I don't think that she makes for the best mediator. I think she tries, so I'll give her credit for that. I want to say that I am very sorry that what she went through on this show. This was real life moments that I don't think people give her enough credit for. telling her son too early and then losing the pregnancy, that probably had to hurt. Her being alone probably was devastating to her. The fact that her son was there, her mom wasn't there, her husband wasn't there, and she had to deal with all those emotions on her own. My heart goes out to Sanya. I could tell though, Sanya has a vendetta against Kenya Moore. Sanya went through the whole list of what everybody did for her, but was very clear that Kenya was not on that list. She felt like Kenya didn't even call her. Kenya says she did call her, but she didn't answer. Are we saying that they have not had any communication since she's been pregnant again? I'm slightly confused. Did Sanya mean that all of the girls called her on the same day? Does that... I don't know. This is one of those scenes where I would have liked a little bit more context. If Kenya did not call at all, that would be horrible. If somebody's your friend and they lose a baby, Kenya affirms that she did call. Sandy didn't pick up. Does that mean you didn't text later? Does that mean that you guys didn't call or text each other a couple days later? I'm very confused on the timeline, but this was Sanya having a moment. She utilized that to try to take a dig at Kenya, and I was surprised that Kenya was so gentle with her. I don't know if it had something to do with her being pregnant or what, but I really thought that Kenya would have more fire for her because she, did try to take you down, but I don't know the back and forth and their actual relationship, but it was extremely weird to take that moment and then try to stick it to Kenya specifically, and for Kenya not to give it back to her. But y'all can put in the comments if you were surprised at how soft Kenya went with her. Maybe the pregnancy thing, I don't know. But either way, we got over 2,000 people here. We should be at least about 1,200 likes. Definitely hit that like button. I don't even have to open my phone to see that we are not there. Oh, wait, I think we got another. Oh, we got a big Cash App. Thank you so much, Brandon. He says for a donation for a great cause. Brandon said another $350. So I think, guys, that for that Tiara, the black mother of 3 who was murdered, and we're raising money to send to her kids, I think that we're probably at like $4,000. I'll have the specifics once YouTube updates all of my super chats tonight. But guys, I'm thinking we're at over $4,000. Whether you donated, whether you sent well wishes, whether you prayed for that family, thank you so much. And thank you, Brandon. That is an extremely generous donation. But okay, let's get back to the mess. So I want to say to Sanya, I wanted you to be quiet in this reunion. You were irritating the shit out of me. All of the chiming in you had in this reunion, you really only had this one moment. You chose to go at Kenya in your moment. Kenya was over there like, everybody was looking very sympathetic towards Sanya, and then Sanya started bringing up her name, and Kenya was like,
So now why am I in it?
And you could have did it.
See how I get
I
thrown
did
in
because you
stuff?
never
I knew you did
apologized.
Moving on. We get to Kenya. So Kenya has decided that she wants to adopt a baby. And to me personally, I know we had a lot of back and forth about the embryos, but for me, I understand wanting both of your children to have the same father, but Mark is just, So I'm actually happy that she's decided to adopt. But again, that's all on Kenya as to what she actually wants to do. We get to Sanya and Kenya's real beef. Kenya felt like there was times where Sanya would be with Marlo and did not check Marlo, but would always check Kenya when she felt like there were double standards. And then Sanya brought up a time on camera where she did check Marlo in all fairness. The funny thing about checking Marlo is Marlo doesn't really care. So anytime Sanya said something to her, she was basically just like, I'll do it again. So it's like Sanya's that annoying little gnat, a little fruit fly in your ear that you really do not care about. saying you're gonna regret her behavior next season. Saying you tried to get in because she really saying you irritates me too. Okay. So people, I mean, beautiful lady, beautiful family, happy that, I think they're called rainbow babies after you lose a baby and you're able to get pregnant again and come to full term with the baby. I think it's called a rainbow baby. But other than that, I don't saying it doesn't do it for me. Florida Go, why do you think Drew didn't discuss what her private investigator found out about Ralph when they were in the back? So what Florida Girl is talking about is later in the episode, we'll see Allison say, Drew, pull out your stuff from the private investigator. I wouldn't be surprised if that's going to actually be used in the divorce. I don't technically have any inside information about that, but probably it's going to be used in the divorce. And from what it sounds like, just watching the show, it feels like Drew and Ralph, certain scenarios were put on for the camera. And they were supposed to be in it together. And Ralph didn't hold up his end of the bargain. I don't know. That's just for me watching the show. I don't have any insight into that per se, any extra information. But just from my vantage point as a viewer, it felt like now they're saying that stuff was put on. So thank you, Florida Girl. Tony, thank you so much for the super sticker. Bougie on the budget. Candy's voice didn't shake this reunion. Growth.
You know what that is? It's growth.
It didn't. I think she was more angry than anything, to be honest with you, Bougie on a budget. I think she was pissed. The Dragon's Den says Courtney is classless for being so embedded in Drew and Ralph's peanut head marriage. You are one of the fairest vloggers because many are not Team Twirl. I can be Team Twirl and definitely say when I don't feel like Kenya was right, when she should have done something differently. Just being a fan of somebody doesn't mean that you can't hold them accountable. But thank you for that, Dragons Den. I appreciate that. Nitwit says, I love hearing you flip the pages in your notebook. You bring us all good tea. We got so many. This was a lot. Did you guys feel like this was a lot for one episode? I was sitting there like, dang, when is it going to end? And then it was extra minutes. And I was like, I'm going to be late for my live. And y'all like to be reading me about being late. Thank you so much for the super chat. So, I don't know really where Sanya and Kenya stand. I think their stuff is kind of like mild. It's mild irritation. I don't think they really see it for each other. And that's just gonna be it. Sheree gets okay. Sheree sets up a question with Andy. I didn't like that. Sheree literally got to ask Andy a question that would be reserved for like a viewer. If this is not enough for people to see that this was a concerted effort to try to take Candy down, I don't know what is. So she asked a question basically saying how Candy gets away with not showing her life. She thinks Candy should take a break. Candy responds, you should know about breaks. Now, Candy's not a reader, but that was good. And Sheree said, no, they've asked me back more times than I've came. I don't believe that. I do not believe that at all. I think that of any people, you need whatever coins they will throw your way. I do not believe that you were asked back times and you chose not to come back. You literally, like Kenya said, have been the most fired housewife in the history of the show. That's just that. It is what it is. But the fact that you got to ask a viewer question, the fact that you had a bag ready for Candy, for Drew, that had like one of those in-scene things, whatever it's called, the fact that you had the She by Sheree news. If I was Candy, I wouldn't F with you ever again. And I've already told you what my get back would be, but that's on Candy if she chooses not to. Maybe Candy just feels like I make so much money on this show, I don't really have to go back and forth with these people, but I would go back and forth. Definitely. I would go back and forth. Lisa Tville, I don't know if I I don't know where this super chat. It looks like a super sticker, but I can't find it. So thank you so much for the super. Is Lisa T in the Ville? Thank you for the super sticker. We got like 2,000 people in here. Definitely hit that like button, people. It is a free way to support the channel. Whew, Candy versus Marlo. Guys, listen closely. So what Sheree can say what she wants, just like Candy can. That's not what I'm saying, Q. The issue is Sheree got to do a viewer question. That's weird. You're on the couch. You wouldn't have to have a question already sitting in Andy's lap on a cue card. That's weird. Just say it. You're on the couch. That's what they're there for. So production starts when we're looking at the Candy and Marlo beat by showing us Candy by showing us Candy contradicting herself. She says Marlo has a big heart and really cares about people. And people are always trying to define her by her mugshots. And then they cut to Candy talking about her mugshots and, wanting to headbutt people. This is what I'm saying about a positive edit. That steers you. Nobody's my queen except the Virgin Mary Mother. But anyway, so you guys hear what I'm saying? That steers the audience, right? Like that literally steers the audience towards whatever Marlo has to say because now they've shown Candy contradicting herself. And then we move into the fight. Andy seems confused about the fight with Marlo's nephew, like the majority of us were. Marlo is sticking to the fact that she felt Candy did not do enough and that Candy should have sent flowers. Candy should have done more for the family. Candy reaffirms that when they shot the scene and she found out, she hugged her, they had a moment. Then this is where it gets kind of weird. Sanya chimes in because, she needs a moment and feels as though Candy's not getting it. And Candy is very clear in this moment. You guys are trying to come for my businesses. Sanya says, no, it's just about her feelings. Marlo just has feelings. The reason that she had an issue with Drew was her word usage. Bingo. Why would Drew's word usage have anything to do with anything? The word usage comes into play because Sheree and Marlo had a plan at the beginning of the season to do whatever they could to expose Candy and, by their admission, make her work. It's weird.
No, my head. Oh, okay, imagine. Oh, my edge is just like done.
So what happens with Candy this season then?
You're gonna see she's just held accountable. No one's worried about you being the longest housewife. You're on this platform. You deserve to give everyone your reality, and we're all making sure she gives y'all her reality, especially when she's around
we're
us.
Expected to. We're all expected to give our reality, the good, the bad, the ugly.
Mm-hmm.
And so why not everyone?
I'm telling you guys, it's weird. Like, this is what they were going around saying. We're going to make her. We're going to make her. That's production's job. That's Bravo's job. That's the executive's job. You are barely peach holders. Barely peach holders. You got in by the skin of your teeth because Portia left and there was nobody else. And then, Sheree, you are like... Sheree, you're like Phaedra with Chuck. She says they dated. Chuck says it was something else. Y'all do the math with that. But Candy was the one on his arm and on the red carpets. Phaedra Creonta never made it to his arm. So y'all do the math there. That's who you are on this show. The remnants, the leftovers, the wannabes. And so the thought of you making somebody work sounds crazy. Just saying. Sanya chiming in to explain it was no need, Sanya. It was absolutely no need. Sanya!
out of me.
Why?
You're bugging the shit out of me. You're really bugging the shit out of me. So Candy said, Marlo says, I'm sorry, Candy says she's jealous and they're trying to take down her business. Marlo says, I'm not jealous. Candy says, no, wait, who said this? Oh, Drew. Drew had a good one. I was shocked. Drew came in with a good one. She told Marlo, what you have is a Birkin and some memories. I fell out my seat. What you have is a Birkin and some memories. I was not expecting that from Drew, but she told no lies in that moment. Miss Cookie Ray says, so did thing 1 and thing 2 not show us anything because they aren't paid enough, or did they just not have ish going on? Miss Cookie Ray, I don't know. I don't know what the expectations are. We got Martell and Scott Lee. Scott Lee got to definitely promote his restaurants, his businesses, the way that they say Kenya did with Roy, but nobody mentioned Scott Lee like that. And we got Martell Holt for a full season where we're talking about he has big D energy, but Martell is saying he never touched Sheree. That's just his friend girl. So who knows? It's definitely a double standard for sure. Sean, Courtney speaks on parenting, but we can't speak on her co-parenting a whole adult. Does Courtney want Drew's husband or side chick? Plus, the man in Africa was correct. Sheree will never get a man. Thank you, Shawnee, for the super chat. You know, interesting choice of men. Real interesting choice of men, Sheree. Real interesting choice of men. Okay. So the meat and potatoes of this, which really was only like the last 15 minutes, was all Drew and Ralph. And technically, before we even get into this, when Drew and Ralph were on the couch, first off, I felt like Cousin Courtney should have been sitting next to Ralph, not Sheree. And I also felt like it was weird the way Bravo chose to shoot this. Oh, I'm sorry. We skipped a little part. Kenya and Marlo go at it about Marlo not wanting Sanya to. I'm sorry. Sanya had that charity event. So Kenya says, never raised her paddle. She mumbled something when I called out her for not donating. Had to be shamed to giving her bestie. But the Fendi wool coat worn as a dress was more important investment. Sanya, of course, defends Marlo and says Marlo never wanted to raise her paddle because you were the one she didn't want to give you credit for raising the money. And you're okay with that? She had already told her that she was going to donate. She just wouldn't donate it while Kenya was doing the charity. Let me tell you a little something about people and donations and charity. Something I know a little bit about. When one person does it, it's almost like a chain reaction. So the more people are given, the other people are also get invested. It becomes exciting. It's a thing. It's weird to say, I don't want to donate because Kenya's associated. Kenya's now associated with your charity. She is the auctioneer. So that didn't make sense. But I felt like Kenya was definitely throwing a little shade Garcelle's way.
Then you came to my charity event, raised your paddle to donate $5,000 to Children's Hospital Los Angeles and never paid.
What?
You were not being genuine.
That is.
Did anybody else get a little Garcelle shade? You raised your paddle and did not pay. Did she pledge it? I think she was quietly just gonna give it to her. Marlo did donate. Sheree did donate. Everybody donated. I think the girls who didn't like Kenya just didn't want it to. She just did. Right. Where is Gabor? It is a little. It might be a little Garcelle shade. Either way it goes. That was small, minute. Drew and Ralph. It's weird the way this was shot. Did anybody else pick up on the fact that the whole cast did not need to be sitting there for Drew and Ralph, unless the expectation from producers was that the cast were going to chime in to go at Drew and side with Ralph. So they might as well have had Courtney on there. What this reminded me of, though, and why I'm thinking of it this way, is we've seen other divorced people that Bravo cares about, and they're not put through the grinder like Drew and Ralph were. Y'all remember on Married to Medicine when Quad sat down with Dr. G? They were in a separate space, which made it less awkward. Even though they had a very tumultuous situation, Bravo definitely gave them the respect to have them in a different room than the entire cast. This was strange from the beginning, especially with so many people chiming in to try to expose Drew. We definitely, like, it was extremely weird to me the way that they did that. But let's get into it. They're both living under one roof. I think an attorney told me that when you're in a divorce proceeding, you don't want to be the person who leaves because you don't want to give up any ground for, dividing the house or saying you have some claim on the house. So I think that's why people getting divorced stay in. Now that's from an attorney. If we have an attorney in here who has something else to say about that, just put it in the chat. But that's what I heard. People are advised not to leave the home, and that might be why they are still residing in the same house. Drew telling the producers they were in the best place ever in 8 years. It just feels not true. If they were already talking about divorce and stuff like that, Drew kind of touches on what she feels the sanctity of marriage is. And I think for Drew, it's probably we're in it together. But technically, I don't think that y'all were in the best place that y'all were in 8 years. The man wasn't even staying in the same room. And he's talking about, dick all over the world. We're going to get into it because it was a lot. They do a package about Drew saying she never kissed a woman. Drew gives Ralph a peach. Somebody please take away Drew's props. Drew, what the hell? No more props. We got a plum and a peach. We got Kenya with a blank affidavit for a subpoena. No more props. We got bobblehead Courtney, the biggest prop out there. No more props. I'm done with the props. We got Sheree spinning and twirling around. This was all a mess. No more plums, props, affidavits. Let's just have normal reunions where, you just come in. It was like a whole receipt book. This was a mess. It was a whole, what is going on? We got whole magazines, She by Sheree magazines. Okay. So they're in mediation. Weirdly, neither one wants to talk about it. And Drew and Ralph keeps kind of like giving Drew the floor. Drew doesn't want to talk. So right off the bat, it's weird. Ralph, if you're not here to talk, go back. What were you doing here? If you didn't actually want to talk. We got Ralph says he wants to be a good representation for Black fathers. Okay, I'll give him that. If that's why he says he's here, I think it was here to double down on what he wanted to put out there about Drew. But we'll go with what you said, Ralph. Drew says she's never been protected by Ralph. Andy asked Ralph if he's ever been faithful. Ralph says it would have come out. Now, here's the thing. It's very difficult to get things past the straight shooters. It's extremely difficult. What Ralph did in that moment was definitely a tactic. He asked you a direct question. Have you ever cheated? That would be a simple yes or no. What he does is allude to the fact that if he had cheated, it would have come out. Like the text messages that are out about Drew. See, this is so simple. We're super fans. We've seen this enough times. We can piece together some shit.
Like, girl, get it together. Connect the dots.
We saw what you did there. The answer was yes or no. And so then he comes out and says no. Then the question is posed to Drew, and she says no, she never cheated. She's always been faithful. Ralph is Oh, this is also something very interesting. Ralph is damn near whispering. It feels like maybe a crisis manager has coached him. You're on a couch and with all women and Andy, and what you don't want to ever come across is aggressive. So he is parsing his words and he's speaking very softly. But juxtapose that with Drew saying at home, he says, fuck your feelings. Like, oh, I didn't mean to curse like that, but basically that's what she said. That's what she said. Are y'all picking up on this? These are tools that somebody who does have a crisis manager would tell them to do. You want to parse your words. You want to make sure that you're extremely clear. You want to make sure that nothing is showing aggressive. You want to have all your facts in a row. It's not hard to see. But good tactic. I didn't think Courtney had it in her. I don't know that Courtney is your crisis manager, but it definitely does sound like you got me discussing the night. I forget. This reunion wasn't bad, but it was a lot. It was a lot. It was a hell of a lot. Did they both cheat? I technically don't know. We don't technically know if Ty got with Lickety Split, and we technically don't know if Ralph was getting his D sucked around the world. I'm more and this is me being honest. I'm more confused after the reunion than I was when Courtney was doing his talking point. This was a lot. But when Drew presented the receipt where somebody had texted Ralph said it was a catfish and he didn't respond. They read Drew's text messages and nothing said that she actually got with it. What we did hear was that Ty was her crush. I don't know. Like, I was hoping for some smoking gun in either direction, but I didn't see it. It felt like two kids bickering. So y'all feel like they both cheated. Where are the receipts from both ends? Mims, they don't own each other, so cheating is subjective. Did they both cheat? I honestly don't care. I'm tired of the whole thing. Yes, you know they both cheated. He said it was silly. I put in the chat if you were more confused after the end of the reunion. Like, what is this? I don't think Drew cheated. Ralph cheated. He claimed it was a joke. It was Ralph cheated. He admitted he said it about the BJs around the world. I know he admitted it. Y'all, I was confused. I was confusion with this end of it. What is this? Okay. So we get into Drew's assistant. So now everybody is telling her that the other assistant that Ralph fat shamed is the one who told everybody. And Drew is like, no, I don't believe it. Drew, let's take account. If everybody, including Candy and other people, are saying they've heard around town stuff that came from your assistant, you may need to look at that assistant and see if that's the right person to have around you. You can't believe that, like, you've already gone through this with Anthony. So it would not be surprising to me if another one of your assistants either betrayed your trust or went after you, because it's already happened. I didn't get. You have to understand that it's happened before, so it could happen again. Be careful of the people you have around you. Then you have these people on camera, so it might be people who are looking for a moment. Team more confused. Team, I don't like. It was hard to piece together. I told you guys at the beginning, this was Marlo sitting on the couch. Everybody else looked uncomfortable because you're looking at the demise of a marriage with 3 children in the middle. Marlo took joy. Marlo reminded me of Courtney. Anytime that anything was going on, it's this sinister little smile. I was not comfortable watching this. I can give Ralph a hard time or whatever, but I'm not comfortable seeing a marriage with 3 young kids fall apart. There's something weird about these people. It's something very weird about these people. So don't tell me anymore about what I say about Marlo and how I should how I should talk about Marlo. I don't have a good feeling from this lady. I'm sorry. I don't. I can give her, she has her moments. I like what she did with her nieces and nephews. I'm happy that she has that charity with the foster kids, but this is weird. Everybody else is watching the demise of the marriage and you are smiling ear to ear. That's not fun to watch. Okay. So Drew pulls out her phone to show Andy texts of a woman saying, "When you gonna bring me that D?" He's affirming that this was a catfish. Kenya does say when she looks at the text messages that Ralph did not respond to the person. Then we get to the Magic Mike show. Now, I had already heard Courtney do an interview where she said that there was never any Magic Mike show and that Ralph was only in Vegas for a tech something. He was only in Vegas for some tech forum or something. I don't know. But Candy comes out with the receipt saying that's not true. Ralph was supposed to audition for Magic Mike. Ralph does not respond to Candy. So again, it just feels like just a bucket of lies. I don't know what to believe and what not to believe from this storyline. If Candy had not actually had that unaired footage where she called the producers of the Magic Mike thing to find out if Ralph was going to audition or be a part, I would have said, okay, well, Ralph wasn't going to do it. But now that Candy has come out with this, it's like, Ralph, what are you doing? Be honest. At this point, you're claiming to be the honest one and Drew is the liar, but now you're getting caught in lies. Confused. I'm Andy watching the performance. Like, what are y'all giving us right now? It just didn't make sense. So, oh my God. Sanya says, I never said, oh, okay. So then Drew is now adamant that Ralph was the one that gave those text messages to Sheree. Hold on. We got a super chat. It says, the Vegas trip was confusing. Drew brought up the audition. No one was in sync. And I think Black Captain America is Team Ralph. So definitely Black Captain America, let us know. Ralph claims that there was nothing, but then we found out it was something. And too weird. Thank you for the super chat. Sameldi says they need to get rid of Drew and Ralph from the show. They have lied from the beginning and it's hurting the show. It makes the show frustrating. Thank you for the super chat, Sameldi. What I hope is the Drew Ralph storyline does not make Courtney a cast member or a friend of the show next season. That's what I'm hoping. How do you go from IT to stripper? He is in tech, but I'm so confused. Below jobs around the world. Ralph says, Ralph alleges that Drew has been with multiple women, but the only thing that they keep talking about is Ty. So Andy asks him the question, so I'm expecting him to say, well, it's been multiple women. It was this one, but he goes back to Ty. So did you mean to say it was multiple women, or are you just throwing around the Ty allegation? Be very clear, because this is your moment. You're on the couch, so, I would have hoped that you would have had all of your ducks in the row to answer all the questions. He does admit to saying that he received blowjobs all around. He said it because it sounded silly. It reminded me of when they were in therapy, and he said, what did he say? Everybody gets divorced. And then he stopped seeing the therapist. Well, you guys know my opinion. He stopped seeing the therapist because he does not want anybody to hold a mirror up to him. It was a lot, y'all. He also says that he does not want to adopt Josiah because if you adopt somebody, it has to be due to abuse, abandonment, or death. And that he never wants to take that from another black man. So in all fairness, I understand what Ralph is saying. He's saying that if the biological father wants to be in the picture, he's not going to take that from another man. As I understand it, I did some research before I interviewed Allison on Drew and her ex and all that. Allegedly, Josiah's father did not actually meet or did not actually physically meet his child until Josiah was 2. Excuse me. And that was before he went to prison for insane amounts of drugs that he was selling. So if you have a situation where the father chooses not to meet his son until the age of 2, then right after 2, you go to jail for 10 years. In jail, I guess, is when he realized, okay, now I want to be a father. Ralph had been that child's father for 8 or 9 years at that point. They all live in the same household. I get what Ralph is saying about not wanting to take that from another black man, but I think you also have to take into account a black man who did not necessarily want to be in the child's life before he went to prison, and then you went to prison and did your dirt, came out 10 years later, and now you want to be in the child's life. I'm happy to say that Drew says that Josiah is, now this is on the show, I don't know, I haven't talked to Drew, that Josiah is getting more comfortable around his father, but I would not have seen an issue if Ralph would have adopted Josiah while he was incarcerated. Technically, I researched it. You can adopt the child while the person is incarcerated. And if you have seen that this person was not a father, I don't know why it was even in question. If it were me and I'm raising this kid who I love, I'm married to the mom, we've produced 2 other children, why would it be such a question? The man didn't want to be in his son's life at the beginning. He didn't meet him till he was 2. So some of this, whatever. That's really what I feel like. Whatever. Kenya, when he said abuse, abandonment, and death, I think there are more reasons to adopt. I don't think that putting adoption in a category of something horrible. Oh, something horrible has to happen. When technically, adopting Josiah would have just been another outpouring of love and support. Your father isn't around. I feel like I'm your father. I'll adopt you. Just my opinion. Let's see. I think we got a couple super chats. Candy wasn't any better. She started the demise. The demise of what, Beatrice? Whose demise did she start? Let me know. You don't have to do another super chat. Just I'll find your comment. Brianna says it's a cop-out. Sheree lies too. This adoption thing should have never come about. Ralph and Drew could break up anytime. Oh, so you're thinking that he should not have ever been adopted? I don't know about that. Florida girl, Ralph and Drew giving Cynthia and Peter anything for Drew to have a peach next year. But what would that do for Ralph? Thank you so much for the super chat, Florida girl. Ralph wouldn't be there. Autumn says, I get what everyone's saying, but we can't make Ralph adopt a child, you guys, because what if the divorce gets really nasty? I mean, normally it's the kids who suffer. I was thinking that the adoption was in place before they were really having such a difficult time in their marriage. That's why I don't see a problem with it. The bio dad has to give up his rights to adopt someone's child. Nope, not if you're in prison. If the bio dad is in prison, nope. It's grounds for an adoption. So we'll see. I mean, technically, I think Josiah is better off not being adopted by Ralph if Ralph really does not want to adopt him. He's already had enough issues with his father going to prison for the majority of his life and then being reintroduced. Now the only father that he's known is getting a divorce from his wife. I really hope that the kids are able to not be impacted in such a horrible way through this divorce and this divorce being televised. And I really hope that they are in that house not really showing their disdain and resentment for each other while around the children. Because at this point, the children are the only thing that really truthfully matters. How they grow up in a loving environment is what matters. So hopefully they can put their adult issues aside while they are still residing in the same house with the children to make sure that the children are comfortable. Not always, Mims. There are criminals in jail fighting for their rights. I'm just saying that when I looked up adoption in Georgia and how you could adopt somebody without having the parents' consent, on that list is if one of the biological parents is in prison. It's grounds for an adoption. Now, whether they would fight it or not, I don't know. I don't technically know all the ins and outs about Drew's first, or what were they calling him? I hate it when they called him. I think it was like first daddy or something like that. Old daddy. I don't know. But if he wants to be in the child's life and now Josiah is comfortable with him being in the life, then I say go for that, Josiah, and just make sure that the kids are taken care of in this situation. Gadget Girl 99 Diaz says, didn't Ralph write an adoption book? I don't know if it was adoption or being a step parent, but people are saying that he capitalized off of the adoption and the show and then did not adopt. So I don't know, Gadget Girl. Andy asks about Courtney. Ralph changed the subject. Drew says you coached Courtney. Ralph changed the subject. That is technically gaslighting. The question was put, did you feed Courtney this information on Drew? He wouldn't answer the question. Drew says that he said F my feelings. Did you coach cousin Courtney? And not answering it says a lot. Allison wants Drew to expose the private investigators' information, and Drew refuses to do it. I don't know what that was about, honestly. I'd have to ask Drew why she wouldn't do that in the moment, because everything was out there at this point. Kenya gets Ralph together. Now, this was the highlight. Now, some might say that Kenya was projecting every negative feeling that she had for Mark onto Ralph. Technically, that might be a little true, but I do think that if you see similarities in somebody and you're on the couch, go for it. She talked about Ralph not siding with Drew. Ralph had nothing to say, no comeback. Basically, she put into a nice package probably everything that Drew wanted to say to him, but does not feel like she can say it to him because Ralph will redirect or not answer. So Kenya actually put Ralph in the hot seat, and Ralph didn't like it. Ralph doubled back with, how long were you married? And Kenya was like, you're doing it again. So my feelings are not valid in what I'm saying, or everything I'm saying is devalued because I was married for 2 years. It was good. Ralph had very little comeback for Kenya. I was like, okay. She even talked about Courtney. And Ralph was like, that was my cousin. And Kenya was like, you don't know that woman. Ralph had no retort. So the episode ends with Drew performing her new single, basically directly to her ex-husband or her soon-to-be ex-husband. Everybody felt awkward. It was Ralph turns around. He does not want to look at her. And they said this was one of the most awkward moments on the show. She definitely was singing to him. Hopefully she released the single today so that it coincides with the reunion. It was crazy. Okay. Charlene says, Mims, I'm an adoption caseworker in New York, and if a parent is in jail, they still have rights and had to take the child. Hold on. If a parent is in jail, they still have rights, and I had to take the child for parent-child visits. They have to surrender, or the courts have to terminate. Did I say something different, Charlene? Let me know, because what I read was one of the grounds for adoption would be if the parent was in prison. But I guess it would be up to the judge, I think, is what you're adding to the conversation. Either way it goes, it's probably best that he did not adopt Josiah, because it doesn't sound like he wants to adopt Josiah. I just hate that Josiah's adoption became fodder for the group. I really hate that. And when they pressed him on if he had told that to Courtney and how she said it, we didn't get what I wanted. I mean, I really was looking for something from Ralph. Ralph was, like I said, he parsed his words. My expectations of him were, okay, this is your moment. You don't have the microphone. You've been utilizing Courtney as your microphone. But when pressed on very direct questions, he evaded them. So, I don't know. It says, yes, you did. They can't not adopt your child because you're in jail. You are reading her comment wrong. Parents still have rights. Let me look this up again. What I read was one of the grounds for adoptions is if a parent or a biological parent is imprisoned. The custodial parent and the adoptive parent can petition for, like the stepfather or stepmother to adopt the child, and it's up to the judge. That's what I read. I didn't say that the parent has no rights. The parent can always sign away the rights, but if you're in jail and one of the custodial parents wants the adoption to go through, then it's up to the courts to decide. And this was the adoption laws vary state to state. This was specifically in Georgia. But okay, y'all, this was the end of the season. The ratings were not great. Do y'all want to recast? And let me see. Hold on. Somebody said wrong. Why is Ralph the only husband on the show right now? He really wants to stay relevant. Wrong. Okay. Well, guys, put in the comment section if you have, or if you're an attorney or you have specific knowledge on all things adoption in the state of Georgia, definitely put it in the comment section, and I'm going to read the comments. Sharon, Courtney is vested because she is Tampa Bay. Thank you, Sharon. I think they need to make some changes. And I would start with making sure that Courtney does not come back. And I know Marlo has a fan base, but if anything, make her a friend of the show. That's where I would start. Those two, Courtney and Marlo. Beatrice, Candy kept the petty shit going about the kiss. Kenny was on Ralph's ass. Oh, okay. I think you were okay. So I think what Beatrice is saying, that Candy played a role in the Drew Ralph issue on the show. Thank you, Beatrice. This was a lot, y'all. This was a whole lot. This was a lot of subject to go through in 1 hour on this show. So thank you guys for being here with me for this season. I cannot wait till Married to Medicine starts. I cannot wait until Beverly Hills starts. And I cannot wait until Potomac starts. So, yeah, this is about to be crazy. If anybody has an extra VIP BravoCon ticket that they want to sell, hit me up on my DMs. Make it make sense now. Because those BravoCon tickets went quick and your boy is thinking about going. So put that in the comments. Again, I'll give you guys a complete running tally of how much we have made. Thank you for everybody who donated to Tiara's family. It means the world to me. And I'm going to see you guys next time. Have a good one.